This is Johnny Dollar, and I have the sincere pleasure of having my friend and fellow artist Vesa on the line. Hey, Vesa.
Johnny motherfucking Dollar, good to see you, man.
It's good to have you, man. Good to have you. So just for people that don't know, Vesa is a painter, an artist. He does, canvases. His canvas could be a female body. His canvas can be canvas. I've seen him do all kinds of live art, and I've seen some of his larger pieces. He's been in the space quite a while. But without further ado, let me just let the man speak. Hey, Vesa. So why don't you describe your profession or your work in a few words?
How can this freak show be put into a few sentences, man?
No doubt. We'll try to do it in the form of a haiku.
No, I think I'm going to try the traditional way. No one's going to want to hear me sing. I do a whole bunch of stuff, but singing's not one of the ones that anyone wants to hear publicly. So, with your permission, I'm going to skip that one.
Okay,
but
quite all right.
Altogether, I suppose I started creating from a very young age, and the weird noises that you're going to hear in the background is my boxer dog, who's a little bit restless and whatever. So if there's drooling and strange other kind of stuff, it's not me. Anyway, I started with music, and then some photo manipulation and things like that, and then I ended up going to film school. I suppose the essence of it all is storytelling. I just love storytelling, and it doesn't really matter what kind of mediums, or whether it's on a canvas or it's on a stage or it's a keynote or writing articles or whatever it is. It's trying to, first in my own research, try and discover something valuable, and then package that in a way that might be valuable to someone else, and then push it forward no matter what form it takes. And that's the gist of it. And about a decade ago, I was involved in making a documentary film that dealt about the monetary system. And I learned how, all of a sudden, at that point I was super naive. I didn't know that the gold standard had been removed and all of that kind of stuff. It was completely beyond me. I never really thought about money as anything other than a means of change. I didn't know that it was a whole system of how money was made and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, who thought about money? It was like, I want some. That's all I used to think. I need, didn't know. I'm with you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw a couple of documentaries, and it was literally like being pulled out of the Matrix, It was like, someone yanked me out of a very weird dream. And at the same time, I saw this other documentary called The Corporation, which was about basically, it made a comparison in between if corporations are human beings, like many of them have the rights of human beings, what kind of a human being is it? And then it goes through the checklist of a psychopath, essentially.
Wow.
And, so I saw both of those at the same time, and I came from a pretty commercial family, and even though they've always been supportive of me getting into the arts, even though that might not be their thing, but it was one of those things where I just it was quite the shell shock to try and fathom it all. So I realized that the monetary system is obviously at the root of us figuring this shit out, or then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We're already in a lot of trouble, but if we don't sort this shit out, we don't have any chance, and we're just going to have to crash this whole thing. So I got very passionate about it, and I helped make the documentary. I put all my company resource into it. I had a production company at the time, and then innovated my own pricing system for the arts and things like that. But a couple of years ago, when I finally realized the importance and the relevance of blockchain and how many solutions it offered, not only into the monetary system itself, but also to all the digital artists who are producing either music or images or films or whatever it is, because it became a fucking Wild West a couple of decades ago with the internet. All of a sudden, there are many people who were doing very well aren't being paid at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of us who are producing, especially digital content, they got totally screwed of their income.
Absolutely.
And the blockchain is certainly something that is going to be helping that a lot. So I had a multitude of reasons of why to basically just go all in. Once I realized how important it was 4 months of research, not getting any sleep because my hard drive just went on thousands of RPMs, and I just couldn't shut the fucking thing down anymore. And it was it was that that aha moment, and then I just brought this platform, Art for Crypto, and started telling the story, not only for those of us who are in the space and who are already doing things that we know what this whole thing is about, but it's what I suppose what the cool really need to be doing is help mass adoption. And that's what the both of us, as far as I understand your work as well, is to communicate this not only to and try to sell things who are in the space, but also helping people understand, come in, and realize how important it is. And unless if we get mass adoption happening, this whole thing might be a fire festival. You know that whole.
Yes, I'm familiar with that reference.
Horribly wrong, because that's the inside. Is basically if we don't fix this monetary system, this is a whole big fire festival, the whole fucking planet.
So when did you get into crypto? Because you're one of the first, there's many, but you were definitely in the forefront, one of the first artists that were really influenced by crypto and out there. When did you get into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? What year, and maybe who got you into it? Or what got? I mean, I can tell. You've already explained what got you into it, but was there a particular person or anything individual that got you into it?
Well, I first heard of it, I think, in 2012 or 13 or something like that. There was a very influential Finnish guy who got into Bitcoin very early, but he had a lot of shady press going on at the moment in Finland, and there was just some very weird stuff going on around that guy, and he wasn't very mentally stable, and that was quite public that he'd been to a loony bin a couple of times and things like that. So, like, I paid attention. That's when I was first introduced to it, but it was only a couple of years ago that I went for a coffee with a friend of mine who just then told me that, oh, by the way, he's an investor, and this is something that he's doing, and by the way, you should realized that he'd been online for 4 days trying to find an art piece that he thought was going to be cool on his office window. And he said that, Vesa, I know you're very passionate about the monetary system, but this is something that you get easily, but should just realize that there isn't like much substantial art that he's telling the story at the moment. And from coming home from that meeting, that's where it all started. And it was literally like maybe 4 or 5 days, and I'd made the first art piece.
Cool. No, that's great. So you got a lot of projects going on. I know you're a writer, and I mean you're a journalist. You publish which I don't want to misrepresent. What are the publications you work with?
Sure. In terms of publications, I write for News BTC, which is UK based, but obviously it goes like everything on the internet. It's cross country platforms easily, especially if I do collaborations with other people with their hashtags and tweets and whatever. It's a whole big mesh.
So yes, it's very decentralized.
Yeah.
I get you. It's yes.
Sure.
So News BTC, you got Art for Crypto. And where else can people find your stuff or keep up with you?
I suppose my like social media, for some reason, I've never been able to get a lot of attention over there, but just on my own platforms. But it's Art by Vesa, Art by Vesa. That is my Twitter and Instagram. I mean, it has a lot of my stuff, but basically, if you want to get a really good overview, the art stuff is artforcrypto.com, and I maintain those sites myself, so it's great. I try and make it as concise and clear as possible. And then the body painting stuff, because for a decade before getting into crypto, I innovated this whole kind of form of artistic expression called artevo, which comes from art evolving. So it's artevo.org, where I usually body paint on women, and I tell their personal story and help them kind of get to the next phase in life of where they would like to be going, explore their fears or something like that, to get out of it and sort of basically become your full potential is the whole idea. That their story, my story, and the bigger story somehow come together in an art piece. So it's today, actually, for the first time I ever put together these two platforms, not only in expression, but in themes, and both of them are sold for crypto, but I married them together, like basically a half an hour before we started this conversation, I tweeted the first like mergence of body paint and crypto together, and I did this collaboration in Miami with a dancer called Deadis, and she's just a powerhouse, and she goes as a dancer and a performer. She's not afraid to go to those places that some people are afraid of, like negativity or whatever. There's certainly no negativity in a traditional sense, but she will show her primal scream. She will like show you anxiety. She will like harness this power of what it's like to be a human and let you capture an impactful image in the body painting process. And with that, I started marrying together. So how does this come together? What does this got to do with Bitcoin? And I kind of just photoshopped these two images of her screaming at herself, but like not only almost internally, but then these two images are right next to each other. It's like she's screaming from both sides at herself. And I just thought, well, that's kind of like the double spending problem, because it's like we haven't been able to figure that out in a decentralized way before. Now that there's the birth of Bitcoin, we might get rid of some frustration that we've had for a very long time. So there's also the symbol of birth that is on the inside of it, because of course, like there's so much.
I wish I had a copy of this image to see as you describe it.
Cool.
Well, I will have to look it up. No, continue though. It's because it's fascinating. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and it's sounds like a powerful visual piece.
It was a visceral moment to capture that, because it's just like there are people who have that amount of authenticity, that they have the courage to go where most.
Well, a true artist understands. The human experience is not all sunshines and rainbows. It's the yin yang. You need it all. And I try to be a generally positive person, but I'm aware. We have the human experience. Sometimes we suffer, we endure. There would be no light without the dark. There would be no happiness if we never had any pain. How could we ever enjoy? How could you ever savor food if you've never been hungry? It's that type of thing. But yeah, no, that's really cool. Interesting. Now I'm going to put links to all the things you've mentioned in the description at the end of this video so people can find more. All right, let me ask, I know you're tight on time, so let me just ask a couple other questions. Where do you see the space going in the next few years? Next 6 months to a year? And you can pass if it's
maybe the year. I think it will still be the bear market. I think it's still.
Oh, not price. This isn't that kind of show. I don't care. What do you see?
But how it relates to everything is that there's less bullshit, and I think more people who are still building. It's easier to spot those who are in the space doing something authentic, and they get the big picture. Because now all the ones who were in it just for the money, they've vanished ages ago. So in that way, the price correlates it actually being better to do collaborations and build shit.
So you believe more hardcore, true believers and true builders are going to be making stuff this year. Like we're really going to get awesome.
I think that's going to be, but for me, it's like it's hard to, like most people who say that they know what blockchain is about and where they're going, they're usually full of shit. I don't fucking know, man. Like I know where I'm going and what I'm doing, and I observe some things that are going around me. I know that I know what you mean about not talking about price, but essentially it's annoying also to build, because it's really hard to build when there's not people who will invest into your projects or help you get somewhere or do.
Oh no, 100%. No, but believe me, the price, the bull market has affected me. Like anyone's been in it. No denying. More like I see a lot of people getting on and doing shows, and all they do is talk about price. I don't want to be that, but yes, I'm with you though. No, don't get me wrong. On next bull market, man, I might get a new suit. Who knows? I could use I might even own 2 suits. Who knows? I'm just joking, but really, you get what I'm saying, yeah.
I get you, but like the way for me to actually answer your question, I have to talk about the price, because I'm wanting to build a whole platform I'm looking for investors to come and build something that I see to be the next sort of marriage of art and blockchain in together into something that is going to make another substantial leap.
Okay.
So, like you were asking, where is the space going? I'm saying, well, yes, there's many really interesting people who are entering, and I think they start to get it more. And as the quality of the space in terms of artistic expression comes up, that's something that I think more and more artists are going to come in. The momentum is up. It is like internet 1996 or 97 or something like that. We're still the early ones who are in the whole thing. But I think one of the short of it is I think it's going to be fucking massive, man.
I agree. I agree.
One of the most profound changes in human history that we know of in 6,000 years.
Absolutely.
You know,
well, yeah, absolutely.
Just to substantiate that last claim is simply that kings and governments have for the past 6,000 years controlled the issuance of money. And right now, with the birth of Bitcoin, they don't. And that's not something we've ever had before. We don't know where it's going. We don't know what's happening, but we certainly know that it's important. And we also know that all of these big companies, from BP to Coca-Cola to HP to like just massive companies, or even governments like Malta or Barbados or whatever, they're coming in like with open arms, or they're pushing this thing forward. So even though the price might be low, or people might think that, okay, the Bitcoin is dead again for the millionth time because the price is down, the actual substance, what is being built, is better solutions, easier solutions, governments, companies coming in, or whatever. It's like, how could it not grow? How could it not go towards mass adoption? How could it not become even more valuable?
I agree, but man, I was more. I'm just going to interject what I think it's going to be. I don't usually I think it's going to be the year of the NFT, the non-fungible token, driven by artists. I told you, I've set up a thing where artists can mint their own tokens. A lot of projects out there. Once we're done with this call, we're going to have you. I'd be delighted to have Vesa minting his own art tokens. So people out there can, if they can't necessarily, afford a large piece, maybe they can get some of your digital art. If you're down, we'll hook that up here shortly.
Okay, Johnny, of course.
I got a couple more questions, and one of them is about two of your pieces. You got a lovely piece behind you. I would like to actually look at this piece right here. It's called, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the screen shows it, and it's your newest piece. And it shows these two young ladies. Looks like they're screaming, or is it the same woman screaming? Is this
the same woman screaming? It's the birth one that we were just talking about earlier.
Oh, is this a photograph or originated? This is digital art.
Well, it's sort of. It's a photograph of a body painting, but like collaboration that I did with this model and dancer Danis. But it's also a whole bunch of different paintings that I photographed and then Photoshopped together into the background and the foreground, and I melted it all together with Photoshop. There's some nature photography and things like that in it as well. And eventually, it will be sold as a digital there collectible like that. But it also will be printed into these large-scale canvas prints, usually limited edition of 3, and then I repaint with acrylics on top of it to make them unique, even though it's a very limited edition. But it's still like all of them are a unique expression.
No, understood. It is lovely. What do you call this piece, or do you have a title for it yet?
Yeah, it's Birth.
Birth. Okay.
So the symbol on the inside of it is there's a Bitcoin logo, and then there's the symbol of birth, and then she's sort of holding her own hand because of the double spending problem being solved through the birth of Bitcoin. But it correlates to like anyone who's following social media, which is essentially everyone right now, is like there's so much escaping from reality that is going on that it's almost crazy. There's like this whole feverish anxiety and social justice warrior culture that is emerging, where everyone's calling each other out, and there's so much turmoil and polarization and everything that is. It's like the primal scream of like, is it really this bad, or is it just the first time we actually get to communicate on a mass level with each other at this volume due to social media, that we get to actually hear each other of how much we're suffering as human beings that we're here on this planet and how difficult it is. So it's those things. It's like it's the birth pains of not only us as human beings, where we're going next with the integration of AI and everything that is going on with that, but also the birth of Bitcoin as a solution to some of those us screaming at each other and screaming internally as we go about this, that we might get to solve some of those problems at least. So there's a lot of symbolism that is crammed into that one image, like marrying together. Like sometimes it feels like the technology space and the Bitcoin art space is like it's emotionally irrelevant. The art that I see, it's like, yes, it tells something about technology and it's important or whatever, but it doesn't viscerally feel that like this is what the problem, this is how bad the problem is that we're trying to solve with this. This is how like fundamental it is that we get to tell this story to people, is that this is the amount of suffering that we might get to birth to become something beautiful in the future. This is what we want to leave our children. This is what we want, how we want to participate with the world, so we can eventually check out, at least thinking that we did less harm than good.
Okay, that's
that's even balanced or something like that.
That's good. All right, I want to talk about one more of your pieces. And we'll kind of try to keep this brief, but this is your Silk Road piece, which I saw live. It's a large piece, so medium to large. It was stunning, and you presented it on stage with Lynn Albright at the North American Bitcoin Conference, and it's a very powerful piece. And I mean, it shows it's one of many pieces that shows your talent. Could you just in a brief describe this? I realize there's a lot going on, and we could rant about the Ross Albright and the young man who is, if no one knows, he was abuse of power and has been unjustly given way. They threw the book at this young man. They gave him really an excessive sentence, prison term, a life sentence, basically. It was totally unjust.
Like double life plus 40 years or something.
Yeah, totally.
Like you're dead.
Yeah. It's completely just an abuse of power, and this is a just amazing piece. It's recently sold, I believe, at auction.
It basically went at the North American Bitcoin Conference because all of us were adjusting to the bear market. Like the physical copies, like this one behind me, a limited edition of 3, as the Silk Road is, they usually are $50,000 and upwards. But basically, just like that's not money that most people have at the moment to throw around into art. And I also wanted to the piece deserves to move. So we just decided with Lynn at the conference that how about we try this? I mean, we'll just put the price at 10,000 and say that if anyone wants to get this now, they're going to get something that is exquisite and rare for a very, very cheap price. And we get to move on because there's still two more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great, and it helps a good cause. It's a great piece.
And it went. I got to present it on Russia Today with the Boom and Bust show, and it was on stage with Lynn, and it was great. And just someone picked it up. So
that's good work, man. That's I mean, and I don't mean just technically good and art craft good, but it's well done. Well done. That's one of the things. You're a face. You're a forward face in the crypto world. All right, man. I got a couple questions before we wrap this up. So
before you go, can I just say something?
Anything you want.
Because the actual, I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially in the crypto space, who already know Ross's story and have one opinion or another. I think I'd like to just condense it from my behalf to whatever you think of Ross. I think most people can agree to the fact that a 24-year-old idealistic guy who didn't do anything violent and all the strange stuff that went about with this case. I don't know it so intimately that I could say I'm an expert and I actually really know what transpired. That's not the case. But it does come across that the sentence that he got was just not really in any way in proportion to what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, 100%.
But essentially, I did the art piece before I got to know Lynn and before I even knew so much about Ross and stuff. I was aware of the case of Silk Road and how significant it was to the crypto space. So essentially, what I wanted to do in that whole thing was to because both sides. I mean, if you go to the sort of mainstream media or government side, it's all about scams and crooks and da 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 da. And if you go to the crypto side, it's all liberty warriors who are in it, shining the light of truth into the epitome of pit of corruption. And but so it's unbalanced from both sides. So I thought, how to represent this in an image, and it's basically that, that whole Spider-Man thing. Well, it's not this one. I can't remember who the fuck said it first. It's me revealing my ignorance, but it's the with great power comes great responsibility, and I think that epitomizes the Silk Road and the historic story of evolution and power in a cool way. Because obviously the Silk Road refers to something that was a shady trade route to begin with, and all sorts of things happened with that. But it's that historic moment is that there's always this struggle with power and innovation and people striving to get up from underneath the rock, and that is something that will probably never change in human history. So, like, the way that I wanted to bring balance to this story is that with great power comes great responsibilities for the government, but it's also to the people now. For us who now get to utilize the blockchain, and we have a lot of anonymity, or we get more personal power to do the bidding of what it is that we want to do, and many people seem to have let their inner animal completely loose and forget the stoic truths, or they don't then anymore negate they don't control their emotions anymore, or just because you can do something, that doesn't mean that you should do it. So basically it's a comment on all of us who are human beings, because essentially government is human beings as well. It's the whole thing of what it's like if you just let your inner animal let loose, and so basically you have a really powerful engine but you don't have good brakes. It's all of us, every single human being on the planet, no matter what your position is. It's about assuming responsibility. And I was really happy to hear from Lynn when we started to discuss that this is what Ross has done as well. He's assumed responsibility, even though he was a young, idealistic, bright young man. He realizes that, well, this is obviously not, I didn't play this by the book either. I could have done this in many different ways, and this wasn't the best. So he's assuming the responsibility for his own actions, even though he knows that it's disproportionate of how much he's paying for it. But it's also about no matter who you are in whatever relation into the Silk Road, it's about every one of us having a meditation on what's my amount of responsibility, what kind of a human being am I?
Owning your own life.
Who do I want to be?
Exactly. Owning your own life. Yeah, no, that's well said. Okay, just Vesa, we're gonna wrap this up, but a couple last questions, so they can find you at Art for Crypto, and you mentioned some others. I'm gonna put them in the links at the end. One question: what project are you most excited about for yourself in the next few months? Do you have anything, or is that secret? Do you have anything you want to reveal?
Well, there's a couple of things that I can't really talk about, but and they're to do with that platform and
Understood.
What I consider to be the mix of things. But I think Evolve Events is something that I'm always excited about. With Adam from World CryptoCon, they formed this company called Evolve Events, and they're going to do the Huddle Rally together with their company and the Barcelona Blockchain Summit. And I'm looking for funding to actually make this whole collaboration body painting art piece and wrap a supercar in it and drive it from London to Ibiza through this whole blockchain thing. And that's an excellent thing. That's really cool. Something that I'm looking forward to, as well as the next World CryptoCon. But we're also confirming with the Litecoin Foundation that I might get to do a big collaboration with the Litecoin Summit this year.
Cool. So, well, I'm really excited about that World CryptoCon. That sounds really cool. Dude, that's awesome.
I'll introduce and say.
I met those are nice guys. No, I'm excited to see what you got going on. One last question. This one's really serious. Are you ready?
Yeah, this is really difficult because my dog is licking his balls.
Yeah, well, then that's even more for this question. This is serious. Yeah, dog licking. That's serious too. All right, though, no, but Vesa, if you make it to Artist Valhalla when you die, and you can fight any artist, living or dead, who would it be? I
had this weird experience with someone who claimed to have seen into past lives and things like that. And there was a strange moment that I shared with this one person who, stop it, don't do that right now. I can't talk when he's licking his balls. This is not the appropriate thing.
I got you. Well, just throw out a name. Just throw out a name.
Paul Gauguin.
Paul Gauguin. That's what I need to know. That guy went out to Tahiti. All right, man. Well, good luck against Paul Gauguin. That's what I wanted to know. All right, Vesa.
We're gonna wrestle.
All right. It's been a sincere pleasure, and I will see you again soon. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Johnny.